Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
We don't imply that cashless transaction will reduce corruption completely, but should be a step towards ending corruption.
Every rock has a statue in it, and it's the work of the sculptor to find the statue.
As Season 5 draws to a close, we are going to bring you the highlights of the Great Debaters Contest. I'm Austin Nyambok.
And I'm Mariam Bishar, and here is an inside look on what it takes to be a great debater. Enjoy. The last leg of our countrywide tour took us to Mombasa by the ocean side. And judges, I have to ask, did we leave the best for last? Judge Booker.
Kwa kweli eneo la pwani lilinifurahisha sana. And that's the beginning and end of my Swahili. But that was a good attempt,
That was
wasn't
good.
it? Okay.
Much better than...
Ingekuwa vyema zaidi.
Asante, nimeshukuru.
Naam.
At least it's above average.
Bila shaka.
I don't think so. Well, in terms of the Aga Khan Academy making it all the way to the nationals, Aga Khan Academy Mombasa, I think that was a pleasant surprise out of the coast region. The level of debate was varied. I think this was our first time also in the region. Some very good debates, Malindi High School, for example. Light Academy Mombasa, and of course the Aga Khan Academy Mombasa. There's still a lot of room for improvement, and I'm sure that going forward, Mombasa would be a region to watch.
Judge Maina. Onaje.
Okay, and Mariam deserves a clap for that, please. Please.
She did it.
That's like the...
I mean, we did it.
Be happy.
Pass.
Tosheka.
Kizungumkuti, I don't know what that means.
Conundrum.
Yes. But I think Mombasa, I think we went there with expectation that unajua tumefika pale ambapo ungekuja jana, But
that's a stereotype.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
hurt.
Yeah. That's what
I'm hurt.
I mean, everybody said that.
I'm really
when we
lit
went
for
there,
a shoot.
But when we went there, don't get hurt. I know it's your home ground, but it's okay. But we were surprised. Especially, although there was a disconnect, there was a group that really surprised us. Of course, there's another that was upcoming. And what I would say is that, we like the saying goes, never judge a book by its cover. I mean, you never know what's inside in terms of content. I was amazed at the level of debate by some of the schools that, of course, even some that came, especially like the Khan Academy that came all the way, and we see what they did. And I can't wait for more because Mombasa has a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. I think I'll stop it.
Judge Major, do you think we left the best for last?
I think Mombasa region was just an interesting region. I'll not say that it was a pleasant surprise or that I was surprised when I went there. I mean, I didn't have any expectation actually, but I was impressed with the kind of debate that we saw there. Now, I'll point out the Aga Khan Academy and tell you something about the school. They presented 2 sets of debaters, and I'm impressed that both of them actually won. That tells us that, there is something about public speaking in their school. It is not just a question of an individual or some 3 individuals. It's a question of almost all the members of the school are trained in public speaking. The first debaters, I remember it was Talawa, there was Chizi, and there was Raj, if I'm not wrong. And the 3 were exciting. In fact, what I remember from Raj, a very interesting style, when they were talking about corruption, and Raj said, the problem with Kenya today is anytime you are stopped by a police officer, then you give bribe. But instead of saying you give money, he simply said,
His Excellency, Mr. Kenyatta. And I know that His Excellency can get me out of anything. He can get me out of any pickle, any trouble.
Now, Mr. Kenyatta was an interesting metonymy at that particular point, an interesting debater. Talawa, I told you from the way she started the debate and the way she ended the debate, it was quite interesting.
Corruption is about culture. It's about our culture where we think kitu kidogo can get us out of anything.
and the law is therefore not applicable to us.
Cheesy also. I'll not forget Aldina Visram. There's something interesting about the debaters of Aldina Visram, especially Dennis, has a way with words. I remember Dennis telling us,
if wishes were horses, definitely I would have a ranch.
An interesting everyday saying, but with a little twist to it, and also talked about the epileptic nature of electricity in Kenya.
There is an issue of epileptic nature of power. What do I mean? How many times have we been victims of blackouts?
Epilepsy is a disease, but we know what characterizes epilepsy. But now bringing it to the aspect of power shortages or blackouts every now and then in Kenya, it was a beautiful statement. I love the school because of their style. They had a way with words. I might not remember what every other debater said, but I think it was impressive. Mama Ngina, impressive. I think Malindi also, as has been mentioned, impressive. So it was a rich region that had so many good debates coming from that place.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Aga Khan as clearly, a breakout star. Not a breakout star though, because from the other Aga Khan in Nairobi actually won, one of the first seasons of the Great Debaters. But the level of debate was so beyond what we're used to seeing, and the intellect, the research, and everything. Why do you think that is? That they somehow debate on a level of their own?
Now, something about the Aga Khan Academy, which is my own assessment, which might be wrong, but I believe it's right, is the question of exposure. Exposure is very important, and reading widely. I remember one time we were there and we were trying to engage the students with some, novels and some readers that they have interacted with. And we saw those boys have read a lot. They have read Shakespeare, they have read Jane Austen, Charles Dickens. There are people who just love reading. Also, they have.
I remember they quote Shakespeare as easily as quote.
Yeah, they quote
anyone
Shakespeare.
else.
They're still school-going children. Maybe below the age of 20, definitely. But if you look at the level of their readership, it's wide. And that tells us that exposure and reading widely will definitely expand your thinking. If you look at them at the national level, the examples they were giving and the level of analysis that they were submitting, at one point I doubted myself. And I asked myself as a judge, am I really going to judge these people, or they are going to judge me? Because, they are well-read, they are well-exposed, and they offer you a challenge, actually, as a person. So the Aga Khan Academy, I think it's a question of reading and exposure, very important.
Maina, why do you think the Aga Khan Academy was so iconic and are so above their competitors?
They schooled me. I think I would stop there, but I would want to add a few things, especially, I don't know what they have, because all the debaters that came on stage were equally good. There was no disappointment. At first I was afraid that, this changing of debaters might end up, costing in a way like we have seen in other schools. Mm-hmm. But they knew who they were replacing with, and it was a matter of just substitutes who were very excellent. And so for us, all across the board, the debaters were excellent. And I think it's an element of research and how these people embrace, the fact that they need to be knowledgeable on current affairs and matters happening global. And I think when you think global, there's an element of, you're not afraid even of, using examples of sites because you're well schooled. And when it comes to even now using the example locally, you're more at an advantaged place, because now you can, cite such examples and bring them home. Okay. An excellent team it was.
Indeed it was. Judge Booker, their first debate, Aga Khan Academy versus Light Academy, they had a very technical motion, talking about whether we should embrace GMO technology for food security. How many people could even, know what GMO stands for, apart from just knowing, what they are? And yet they were able to dissect it and do such good research and wow us with, levels of intellect we haven't seen before. So what do you think other teams could take from Aga Khan, from, their work ethic, their methods of research? What is it that we can borrow from them and become better debaters?
That's a very good question, Mariam. And I think that, what is it that other teams can borrow would also raise a question: what are the resources that other schools have? Access to information, I think, is a key challenge for many of the schools across the region. And I guess that has been the challenge in other regions that we went to. One of the advantages that the Aga Khan Academy has is that they have access to information, and that the kind of education that they're getting not only prepares them to debate issues at a national level, but from an international landscape. And it was evident, throughout the motions, right? I mean, they debated twice in Mombasa. And when they came for the nationals, it was evident that this school is at a whole different level altogether. And that points to something that I think the education sector in this country needs to invest in. What is the amount of information that is available for learners? For many people, it's the textbooks. And beyond that, there is nothing else. But I think one of the things that you appreciate when you go to schools like Light Academy and you go to schools like Aga Khan, Mombasa, is that there is much more, a lot more resources in terms of access to information that does not necessarily have to, be what is taught in the curriculum. But if you're going to create this global thinker, that they need to have global exposure. And that is what helped them, in terms of being able to articulate various facts and even educate very many people. So even if schools are to borrow, I think that the challenge is mostly on what are the resources that are available within the various schools that people can actually use. And one of the things that GDC tries to do, especially for the schools that win, is setting up of this chill out zones where they can be able to spend some time just reading and researching on the net and finding as much information as they possibly can. Yeah.
There are people in this world who cannot do without corruption. It's like their basic human want.
People are thinking that infrastructure is the only challenge that is affecting us. Please, let us open our eyes and look at the other challenges that are affecting us. Not only think about infrastructure, but think about other things.
Let us not be like the prodigal son who never saw her mother while young and ends up blaming his father for having wasted his dowry because her mother is aging.
Our foods are fatless. Even our cars are becoming keyless. Our children are going mannerless. Our lawmakers are going careless.
Kenya is losing 639 billion shillings annually due to tax evasion.
Okay, I'm going to ask you all a very hard question, starting with Austin. Aga Khan fielded a lot of debaters. We had Cheesy, Raghuveer, Johan, Beverton. I don't know if I've left anyone out. Who was your best debater from the Aga Khan Academy, Austin?
Beverton.
One word. Okay. Beverton. Where do I go next? Mina.
Brian,
Mm-hmm.
I think he made me stand still. I think my blood stopped for some while. He schooled me.
Okay. Major.
Mario, what you're asking is like telling a father to choose the best child out of
There's
all.
always a favorite.
Yeah, but it's always kept a secret. The father will never just overtly say, this is my favorite. But I'll go for reasons maybe difficult to express, I'll go for Talawa. The very first, that she was a female debater from the school. There's something about her, and I'll go for her.
Booker.
Raghuveer. I remember that his father is a farmer.
To this day. Which is true, yes.
Yeah,
it was not an
this
anecdote.
day,
His father
yeah.
is a farmer.
Raghuveer, yes, that was the name. And he stood out for me.
At this moment, you have 30% of Kenyans who are undernourished. And the problem is not that they do not have nutritious food. The problem is that they do not have food that suffices.
Somebody who's grown, who's very well schooled, very articulate, and yeah.
Could I just say something?
Yeah.
If you talk to the teacher of the Aga Khan Academy, he attributes the success to Cheesy. In fact, he says that Cheesy is the one who worked behind the scenes. It's not a question of being before the camera, it's a question of being behind the camera. And he says Cheesy worked a lot behind the camera to prepare the team and bring it to the nationals. So I think we should also, to be fair to her, in fact, attribute the success largely to her. Of course, there are people who came and one thing about the Aga Khan is a question of teamwork. Everybody knows his or her role, where she fits in all this equation. So as debaters, I think even other schools can learn. It's not a question of coming to the stage to debate. It's a question of giving that support. researching, and even providing material to the debaters. So Chizi, I think, commendable job.
Mariam, I just want to say something. I think I'm confused. As in all of them were equal. I don't have
I
a
was
best.
wondering how you guys have been able to answer, because I was trying to think if someone asked me that, I wouldn't be able, to
Yeah.
pick one person
To
off the
each
hand. But
their
it's
own.
true. Yeah,
So you and
same level. Yeah, but I think what Buka said about Raghuveer is very true. Informed everything. He just grew so much. Beverton was also so intensely intelligent and consistent.
We don't just need to grow crops to feed myself in my own homestead. I need to be growing crops with the intention of feeding my entire community.
Johan has style.
We do not have the capacity to create genetically modified organisms that will be able to sustain our people. So why don't we use the money that we have now to invest and feed that starving Kenyan?
You cannot ignore Johan when he's on stage. Cheesy, I don't know, her work behind the scenes, and of course even when she debated.
There's going to be no need for corruption when we do not have inefficient systems. You wouldn't have to pay that 100 bob to get your passport faster if you were already getting your passport faster in the first place.
I think we should just credit and say, we love you, Cheesy. We wish there could be a fourth debate. It's hard.
But what I'd like to add, and also make it clear to all the other students in the regions, and also when it comes to season 6, is Aga Khan is a testament to how far being prepared for the debate can take you. As in having all your guns ready to shoot. You don't come, because they'd come and you change something, it'll only take them a few minutes, they'll discuss it between themselves, reorganize their argument, and be like, we're fine. That level of preparedness allows you to simply tackle anything. And I'd also like to acknowledge the teacher, because if I happen to deal with him, and he also, during the show, you get to converse with the teachers. You'd see an individual who literally gives the student an opportunity to own their arguments. He's not the teacher or a patron who would be, oh, this is what you're going to say, this is what you're going to say, and that naturally translates into how the debate goes. It's very natural. You feel like these students can actually sit down at a cafe and simply just tell you about their argument. So for me, I feel the Aga Khan Academy, and representing Mombasa region, was a testament to how far preparedness can actually take you in terms of debate or anything in your life.
Okay, so we know who went to the nationals, but the audience at home, is still waiting to see. So aside from the two teams that are there, let's talk about the final debate. Who would you love to see, aside from the two teams that did do the debate, an alternative final debate? Name two schools, Judge Buka and Major and Minor. Two alternative schools that you think would have done a good job at the final debate, if you had to choose. From anywhere in the country. Yes. From anywhere, of course. Anywhere.
Let me go first, because she might mention what I want.
No, let me go first. It was my name that was called out first. Ladies first all the time.
Gosh, now it plays according to your... It's okay. It's okay.
Go first.
It's okay. Hands off.
Ofafa Jericho and St. Mary's Yala.
So an alternative final debate for you would be Ofafa Jericho versus St. Mary's Yala.
Yeah.
Okay. Minor, what's your alternative final debate?
I would want to see Kenya High facing Alliance Boys.
Kenya High versus Alliance
Wow.
Boys. That's a very interesting one. Yes. What's yours?
Moi High School Kabarak facing either Ofafa Jericho or the Kenya High School. One
Mariam,
of the two.
what's yours?
Mine would definitely, I'd have Moi Kabarak wowed me, so it would probably be them versus Alliance.
Okay.
Yes. I feel that would be some explosive stuff on stage.
Okay. For me, I want to be entertained, so I'd preach from the Church of Lenana versus Miranda. I want to see whether we can pick the mastery of language against style. And it would just be like a showdown, like something with pomp and glamour.
Interesting picks. everybody had their own unique, teams. That tells us that the levels of debates were on another level. But maybe, because I know we're in the closing, I'd want to say this, which I believe every judge will give. We are more than confident that our country has leaders. And they don't necessarily have to be the leaders for tomorrow, but even now. Because if these are the kind of minds that we are seeing, being able to take a situation, or even address situations, think through them and come up with such solutions and defend what you stand for is what we hope. And that's a long-term goal for GDC, that we will have a generation of leaders that can take over this nation, Africa at large, and even the world by sound reasoning and being just and really standing for what they believe in. And looking at that, we can rest being assured that our pension, we'll enjoy our pension in a good way.
Okay. He started off like with a parting shot, so I think it's good that we pick up from there. So everyone from Austin, having seen the previous season, going into
How
another
about
one.
the judges finish, then we close the show.
Okay, we can have that. Yeah. So what's your parting shot as we move into the final debate and of course into the next season of GDC?
I think I'm very excited. I have seen GDC grow and grow in the sense that the level of debate has gone a notch higher. The number of schools that have debated has increased over the years, and that's a good thing. From on paper, that is something that is praiseworthy. But I think for me, the excitement is the impact that we are making in society, or the GDC is making, by allowing these young people come together and debate and articulate issues that concern them. The genesis of all this was, as a result of the post-election violence in 2008. And when I see, people who are, teams that come together irrespective of ethnic backgrounds, and that they're united, unity of purpose, to be able to debate, and that they're able to articulate issues of national concern and of international concern at that level. I marvel at the next generation of leaders in this country, that where many of us failed, we can look up to these young people who are going through these processes. And this is just a handful. You can imagine how many more are out there who we can actually be able to entrust the future of this country to. I think in 2016, I'm, looking forward this year, looking forward to more exciting debates. And, the bar has been raised so high, it can only get better. Yeah.
I think that's true. Major, what's your parting shot?
The impact is twofold: one on the side of the students, and two on the side of the audience, which could also be home audience. I once went to do my hair, or rather to have a haircut, and I found the guys.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, very soon I'll be I'll be plaiting my hair.
Oh.
Yeah, that's part of maybe my vision 2016. Now this is the thing. I found the gentlemen talking about debate. I think they had watched an episode and they were questioning me on certain things about debate. I found that interesting. Most of the time we associate debate with the elites, but here is a situation where we are bringing the debate to the ground level, where we find the so-called mamamboga, ordinary people in society, talking about what they saw. I had an interesting encounter again. I met a drunkard who looked at me and called me Judge Minor. I didn't have time to protest and say I'm not Judge Minor. And he told me, you're doing a good job. I saw you yesterday and the job you're doing is good. Now, it got me thinking. This is a drunkard, possibly does not know what he was doing at that particular moment. He was tipsy, but he appreciates the work that is being done. The thing is this again, we are not just educating the elites. We are bringing debates to the level of the ordinary mwananchi, and we are educating them. So in as much as we are nurturing leaders on the other side, we are also educating the citizens of the country so that as they are watching, they are getting educated. That is important. Season 6 of the Great Debaters Contest, what do I expect? Believe you me, I'm expecting the unexpected. Because every time I go to another season, I'm always wowed. I think I've gotten that term. So I'm expecting the unexpected this season round.
Okay, Mina? Or you already gave us your parting
I give
shot?
mine, but I still want to say that I can't wait. And I'll enjoy my pension, happy man.
Okay.
Mariam, you want to go first? Ladies first?
Yes, I think there's nowhere to go but up from here. So I don't know. It's wonderful to see debaters, and I hope more people get into it than they already have. And I hope that the level of debate will be, of course, it will be better. That's assured. But I hope that we open it up to as many people as possible, so that an infinite number of people have this opportunity and the chance to grow and to be seen and to be heard, because that's very important. And I think once we start telling people that, you matter at this level, it gives them the confidence to have, to make greater steps in their future, and to know that my opinion matters. I can make change. I can start conversations, even with drunkards or with the barber shop guy or whoever it is, with leaders. Because sometimes we really do hope they take notes. These are bright minds. So I guess I would just say we'll see you next season.
Well, for me, my parting shot is very simple. I'd simply like to say that for the coming seasons, and based on what we've experienced, the keyword is growth.
A man who wants to float does not tie himself down to a rock that is sinking.
Are we going to let change come and push us along the way? Or are we going to create this change ourselves?
Journalism is about results affecting your society in most progressive way. So let's give the media time or the mandate so that it can be able to publicize everything.
10 regions, 300 schools. We are going to be bringing you the best of the best, the creme de la creme, the Great Debaters Contest Finals. I am Austin Yumbok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Join us to find out which schools made it to the top.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.